Welcome back to the Deep Dives. I have to be honest with you, when I first saw the stack of papers for today's deep dive, I groaned. Just a little bit.
Fruit grown. Why?
Because it looked like homework. It's a stack of market analysis reports. Charts, percentages, inventory numbers, lots of decimals. It looks so dry.
See, that is where you're wrong. That's the difference between reading a weather report and actually standing outside in a thunderstorm.
Okay.
Those spreadsheets, they are not just numbers. They are the pulse of a community. They tell you who's panicking, who's winning, and who's, packing up their moving boxes in total frustration.
All right, that's a big promise for a few sheets of paper. I'll trust you. Today, we're zooming in on a very specific, very high-end slice of the world, the Unionville-Chadds Ford real estate market. And we're looking at data specifically from January 2026.
And this is a fascinating place to dissect because it's not just any suburb. Unionville-Chadds Ford, or, UCF as the locals call it, it's a brand as much as it is a location.
Right.
You have this incredible mix of, Wyeth history, equestrian culture, massive estates. It's a market that usually plays by its own rules.
It really does. On the surface, if you just drive through, it looks like the picture of tranquility. Rolling hills, horses, expensive fences. It just screams old money and stability.
For sure.
But, and here's the hook, we have data here from the SEER team. 3 weekly reports from January 9th, 23rd, and 30th. And when you line them up, they don't look tranquil at all.
No, they really don't. They reveal a market that is actually in a state of pretty serious tension.
Tensions is an interesting word.
Right.
Because when I look at the headline number inventory, it looks like there's nothing for sale.
Right.
And usually when there's nothing for sale, sellers are popping champagne.
Right. In a standard Econ 101 textbook, yes, low supply equals high demand equals fast sales. But we're seeing something very strange in the data here.
Right.
The market is technically low inventory, but the homes that are for sale are just sitting there.
Right.
And sitting there, and sitting there.
It's a paradox. And I guess that is our mission today. We need to solve this. Why is the market slowing down despite having almost no houses for sale?
It sounds so counterintuitive, but in Unionville-Chadds Ford right now, the engine is stalling. And to understand why, we have to peel back the layers of this data.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with that inventory number because the trend line over just 3 weeks is super revealing. So we start the month January 9th. The report shows 44 active listings in the entire school district.
Which, just for context, is a very low number for a district of that size.
Right. But fast forward to the end of the month, January the 30th, that number drops to 39 active listings. So logic dictates supply is shrinking, market's getting tighter.
And if you were just looking at that one number, you would assume prices are skyrocketing and houses are, vanishing in 24 hours.
Exactly. You'd expect panic buying.
But that panic buying, it didn't happen. In fact, the exact opposite happened. The days on market. That's the metric for how long a sign sits in the yard. It went through the roof.
This is the metric that really caught my eye.
It stopped me in my tracks. On January 9th, the average days on market was 98 days. Now, 98 days is already over 3 months. It's a little slow for a premium market. But by January 30th, it jumped to 114 days.
114 days. That's nearly 4 months.
4 months. Think about what that feels like. We're entering the spring market cycle. But here, the inventory isn't clearing. It's getting stale.
So even with supply at just 1.9 months, which is a seller's market technically.
Technically. But the buyers just aren't biting immediately.
So if I'm a seller and my house has been on the market for 114 days, I'm keeping it clean every day, hiding the dog bowls, that sounds exhausting.
It is agonizing, and it changes the whole psychology of the negotiation. When a house is fresh, the seller has the power.
Right.
When it's been sitting for 4 months, the buyer starts to wonder, okay, what's wrong with it?
It creates a stigma.
Exactly. And that stale inventory drags the whole market average down. It suggests that while the fresh, perfect listings might still move, there's a big chunk of homes that buyers are just looking at and saying, no thanks, not at that price.
Well, that leads us perfectly into the next bit, because you mentioned not at that price. There's one statistic in these reports that just screams, ouch, for sellers. The price reductions.
This is the reality check. This is where seller psychology just hits the wall of buyer reality.
Let's look at the progression. January 9th, 38.6% of homes had price cuts. That already seemed high.
It is high.
But by January 30th, with only 39 homes on the market, 16 of them had price reductions. That's 41% of all active inventory.
That is a staggering number. Nearly half the market is admitting they got the price wrong.
So explain this to me. Are these sellers just greedy? Do they just swing for the fences and miss?
I wouldn't use the word greedy, I would say maybe anchored in the past. You have sellers coming into 2026 with like 2024 confidence.
Oh.
They saw the boom times. They know their school district is desirable. They know their neighbor sold for a fortune 2 years ago. So they list high to test the market.
And the market failed the test.
The market failed the test hard. That 114-day number we just talked about, that is the punishment for overpricing. When a house sits that long, the seller gets nervous. They realize no one is coming.
And then they cut the price.
And then they cut the price. That 41% reduction rate is proof that the initial pricing strategies in UCF are just out of sync with what buyers are willing to pay right now.
It really paints a picture of a standoff.
It is a standoff. The sellers are saying, but this is Unionville. My house is worth $1 million. And the buyers are looking at interest rates, looking at the economy and saying, I don't care about the zip code as much as I care about my monthly payment.
So the buyers have become incredibly price sensitive.
Incredibly. They're not desperate. They're willing to wait. And that waiting game is what pushes the days on market up.
Now, speaking of pricing, there's another massive anomaly in this data that I think confuses a lot of people. I call it the math problem.
Ah, yes. The difference between the median and the average.
It's huge. I'm looking at the January 30th report. The median price is steady at roughly $750,000. Okay, that's a lot of money, but it's understandable for a premium suburb.
Right.
But then the average price is hovering around $1.5 million.
It's a massive spread. Usually median and average track somewhat closely. Here, the average is double the median.
Double. So if I'm a listener trying to move my family here, which number do I believe? Do I need $750K or do I need $1.5 million?
You need to understand the geography. Unionville-Chadds Ford has what we call a barbell economy in its housing.
A barbell. Explain that.
Okay, picture a weightlifting barbell. On one end, you have the heavy weight of the accessible market. These are your townhomes, your standard subdivisions. The reports mention neighborhoods like Knolls of Birmingham or Walnut Walk.
Right, saw those. Nice, but, more dense.
Exactly. Those homes align with that $750,000 median. That is the working side of the market. But then you have the other end of the barbell.
The estates.
The gentleman farms, we're talking Pennsbury Township, Pocopson Township. The data shows listings going all the way up to nearly $7 million.
$7 million.
$6.995 million to be exact. And when you have a few of those in the mix, it just drags that average price way, way up.
So the $1.5 million average is almost a ghost number for the typical buyer.
Precisely. If you are a buyer looking at the average price on some website, you might be scared off. You might think, I can't afford this. But the median tells the real story. Half the homes are under $750K. It effectively means there are two completely different markets operating under the same school district umbrella.
It really emphasizes how unique this area is. A townhome community right down the road from a 50-acre equestrian estate.
And sharing the same schools, which, brings us to the why. Why do people put up with the high prices?
The brand. The Brandywine Valley mystique.
It is a very powerful brand.
I mean, you've got the Brandywine River Museum, Longwood Gardens. That whole Wyeth artistic heritage is just baked into the landscape.
It creates a sense of place you just don't get in a lot of other suburbs. And then you add in the equestrian culture, point-to-point races, steeplechase events. It feels established. It feels permanent.
And prestigious.
Yeah.
But the anchor, as always, is the schools.
The Unionville-Chadds Ford School District. The data is clear. Ranked 7th in Pennsylvania, 22nd for best teachers. That's a massive draw.
But there's always a but.
Yeah.
Even Paradise has a price tag. And the local news sources we looked at suggest there's some serious friction starting to bubble up about that price tag.
Yes, the pushback. We saw reports about residents voicing really strong opposition to the cost of a new middle school project.
Right. The headline was, "School Board Gets an Earful." That doesn't sound like a happy community meeting.
It's the classic tension. People move there for the elite schools, they pay a premium for the house, but then the district says, hey, to stay elite, we need a new middle school and we need to raise your taxes.
And suddenly that value proposition gets a little shaky.
Exactly. When you combine high home prices, high interest rates, and then a looming tax hike, you start to hit an affordability ceiling. The residents are angry because they feel tapped out.
It's interesting, though, despite that, the community engagement seems incredibly high. There was that story about the Unionville high grad taking over the Columbia men's basketball team
Kevin Hovde. Yeah.
and the district winning championships. It creates this sticky community. People want to be part of that success story.
That's the emotional hook. You aren't just buying a house, you're buying into a championship culture. That keeps demand simmering, even when prices get painful.
But the data, that 41% price cut rate, suggests that for a lot of buyers, the pain is starting to outweigh the prestige.
It really does.
So let's bring this down to the ground level. We have listeners who might be looking at this market right now. Let's do some role playing.
I love it. Put me in the hot seat.
Okay, I'm a buyer. I've been looking for 6 months. I'm frustrated. I see a house in Chadds Ford for $900,000. It's been on the market for 100 days. What do I do?
You smile because you are in the driver's seat.
Really?
Absolutely. 100 days on the market is your best friend. That seller is tired. They're watching the spring market approach and they are wondering why they haven't sold.
So I can lowball them?
You don't insult them, but you negotiate aggressively. You have leverage. You can ask for closing costs. You can ask for repairs. You can come in under asking. The data says they don't have a line of other buyers waiting behind you.
Okay, scenario 2. A townhouse in Knolls of Birmingham. Perfect location. Hit the market yesterday, listed at $740,000. Do I have the same leverage?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because that's the accessible end of the barbell. That's the median price. If it is turnkey and priced right at the median, it will likely still move fast. If you try to play hardball on a fresh, perfectly priced listing, you're going to lose it.
Got it. Okay, flip the table. I'm a seller. I live in Pennsbury Township. Beautiful lot. I want to move. Am I in trouble?
You're not in trouble, but you need a serious reality check. You cannot test the market right now.
No aspirational pricing. No, let's just see if we can get an extra 50 grand.
Absolutely not. If you price high thinking, oh, I can always lower it later, you are going to become part of that 114-day statistic. And once you hit that 100-day mark, you're damaged goods.
So accuracy is everything.
It's everything. The CERT team's advice in the report was very specific about this. Inventory is low, so you have little competition from other sellers. That's your advantage. But the buyers are picky. If you price it accurately from day one, you stand out.
That is such a crucial distinction. Low competition doesn't guarantee a sale if the buyers are basically on strike over price.
Exactly. The buyers aren't desperate enough to overpay, but they are hungry enough to buy the right value.
This has been a fascinating look at a specific moment in time. We have this premium market, UCF, hitting a definite speed bump.
It's a collision, really. High prices and high desirability are colliding with buyer hesitation. And the result is this waiting game we're seeing in the days on market.
It really makes you wonder about the long-term trajectory.
It raises a really important, almost philosophical question for me. We see this luxury gap widening. We see the time it takes to sell a house getting longer. And I just have to ask, is the Brandywine Valley mystique, the museums, the horses, the top-ranked schools, is that enough to sustain this premium pricing forever?
That is the million-dollar question, literally.
Or are we seeing the hard limit of affordability? Is there a point where even the best schools and the most beautiful scenery can't convince a buyer to stretch their budget any further?
And the data suggests we might be at that point.
The fact that 41% of sellers had to cut their prices suggests we might be scraping against that ceiling right now.
That's a big thought to leave us with. Is the brand strong enough to fight